Hey guys, thanks for joining me again on the Modern Samurai Project podcast, nicknamed the Getting Better or the Get Better podcast. Today we have Paul Sharp. Those of you that don't know Paul, well, I'm not going to go too much into it, right? You know, most of you guys may know him. He owns his own school in the Chicagoland area, right? He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He also teaches firearms classes. But instead of me going into that, I don't want to steal his glory. Paul, please give us a little bit more about your background.
So let me see. How can you talk about yourself without sounding like an arrogant prick? Let's see.
Well, hey, that's the whole thing, man. The more arrogance, the better out here, buddy. So
It's hard. It's hard to talk about that. Let's see. Kind of, I guess the cliff notes would be that I spent a little over 20 years in law enforcement. During that time, I worked undercover, which was a great experience. I was in SWAT for the bulk of my career. I was involved in training firearms and hand-to-hand for the bulk of my career, 18 years of it. And also, I had the opportunity to work as a resident officer, which means the city picks a house in an at-risk neighborhood, and they put you there. You live there for at least 18 months. I lived there for almost 5 years. And your job is to bring the resources of the city to the neighborhood, kind of go into the neighborhood and help the neighborhood, kind of empower the neighborhood to get itself back on course, kind of right the ship, so to speak. So that was the bulk of my law enforcement career, was that kind of stuff. Prior to that, I was just a normal guy, just going to school and wrestling and that kind of thing. I started martial arts training when I was, I want to say 6 or 7 is my earliest memories of boxing and wrestling. I grew up in a family where guys were, it was not uncommon for boxing gloves to come out at family gatherings, and guys would just, kind of play around. It was always that way, kind of rough and tumble, but kind of fun. And so I grew up training in what is now called combat sports, boxing, wrestling, judo. And eventually I found JiuJitsu in 1993 because my Jeet Kune Do school that I was training at got blown away by Hurricane Andrew. And so a friend that I'd made at that school called me and said, hey, there's a seminar that's coming to town. It's this guy, Rickson Gracie. And we didn't know, and he's going to be teaching this stuff called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and it's really cool. And let's go check it out. And it was at an Aikido school. And it's kind of funny because since that time, I've talked to a number of people who were actually there, that I didn't know at the time, And so we went there, and I saw Rickson, and obviously immediately you're going to be impressed by his athleticism. He was just kind of warming up a little bit, and kind of a smaller statured guy, but still, you could tell he was an athlete. And I was used to, from wrestling, I was used to spotting guys right away that you could just tell, like this dude's a grappler, and then he proceeded to do the seminar and then line everybody up and tap everybody out. He tapped me, I want to say, man, maybe 8 seconds, including the time it took to shake hands. Without using his hands, if I recall correctly. It's a long time ago, but I don't think his hands came out of his belt. He just kept them kind of tucked in his belt and just zipped me up in a triangle, and that was it. And I didn't even know enough to tap. I almost went out, and then he let it go, and it's like, oh, you should tap my friend, and I was like, I don't know what that means, man. And then that
your back was on the ground. I thought I was winning.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, you're pinned, bro. And so that was the start, man, for that side of the house. So I never stopped training. I actually became almost, we can talk about it later if you want to, but I was diagnosed as a kid. I had dyslexia, and at that time they called it hyperactive disorder, but ADHD. And part of that is kind of like a obsessive compulsive, addictive personality, whatever you want to call it. So that side of me took over in the pursuit of this stuff. Thankfully, thank
Yeah.
God I never got into booze and all that stuff. I always got into this stuff, you know? And so, man, I just dove in head first. Like it was, and I'm sure you've had that same epiphany, right? Where Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu was what Kung Fu theater was supposed to be.
Exactly.
It was like, holy cow, I just watched a small statured guy. I mean, he's athletic, but he's not big like all these other dudes in this place are. And he just plowed through everybody and like nobody was even there. Like he just was like not even trying,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
And it was amazing. And I just dove in. I found an instructor down there who was one of Carlson Senior's first black belts in the United States, I believe. And fantastic experience. Definitely was the deep end of the pool to get dropped into. At that time, especially, I don't think the UFC had happened yet, either UFC 1 or UFC 2, because I remember a pizza delivery guy coming to my house in Fort Lauderdale, and a bunch of us had got the fight, and I remember him standing there, and he's like, "Oh man, that little guy's gonna get beat up," and we all looked at each other and looked at him like, "No, bro, that's not what's gonna happen." And it was early on that Hoist was still in there, so I want to say like UFC 1 or 2.
Yeah,
But
one was 93, two was 94, maybe early 95.
yeah, it would
Am
have
I
been
wrong about that? Yeah.
yeah, it would have been the one in 93.
Yeah, that was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been that one. So yeah, we knew like right away, like we had this magic power all of a sudden, you know.
Right.
And so that followed me. I ended up in 97 making it onto the list at the agency that hired me. And so I moved up to Illinois from South Florida and continued my journey. And now, you know, I was in this world where law enforcement at that time, especially, was very anti-ground. I caught a lot of grief at the academy from some of the other instructors. There was one instructor there, a guy named Joe Smith, that's kind of legendary in that world. He's since passed away, but at that time, he's just a tough dude, man. Big old knife scar where he had been stabbed on a call on his neck, and just a tough guy. And I remember talking to him, you know, during breaks and stuff like that, and you know, because you can tell, like you can spot your own, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Hey, so you know, it's obvious you train. What do you train in?" So I told him, and he didn't know much about it. You know, he knew traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And I think he was ranked pretty high in that. And so we got to discussing that kind of stuff. And so I showed him a few of the things that at that time, you know, I worked on and was trying to develop and stuff. And he was very supportive, thankfully, because nobody else was. Everybody else is like, "You're going to get killed," you know. And so thankfully, you know, it's one of those things that the right word at the right time, right?
Yeah.
Is the essence of coaching. And so Joe Smith, you know, instructor at the police academy, you know, I'm kind of isolated in this world where there's really no Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the academy, no ground fighting, you know, it was very taboo. And to have a guy of that stature say to me, you know, just keep working at it and figure out how to make it work with your gear, with armor. You know, body armor is going to make it hard to kind of do different things, but figure out how to make it work and just carry on, just keep on keeping on. And so that was really important, you know, because I was kind of impasse. You know, even as a guy at that point, I was a 4-stripe white belt. You know, with those guys, I mean, it takes forever to get promoted with those guys.
I was about to say, man, your first seminar was with Hickson. That's like taking your competitive 101 from JJ Ricasa, right?
Yeah, right.
and then you hop into a Carlson Gracie Jr. Guy. You know, that's going straight into the deep end, man.
Yeah, Marcus was Marcus got his belt from senior, and so we would have guys come through like Alan Goez and Mario Spear. Those guys would come through, man. All the old school guys would come through and just beat the crap out of everybody. And because they were getting ready for fights, because at that time you had the UFC, and then there was another event called, I think, Extreme Fighting something.
Yeah. So,
you know?
So the guy I started jiu-jitsu with, John Lewis.
Yeah.
Vegas. Yeah. That's who I started jiu-jitsu with way back in.
He was in that one.
Yeah. That's where he beat up Junior.
Yeah, he was in that one. That was a good match, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that we had those guys coming through, and Marcus was fought in that event, and so Conan, is what they call him. He fought in that event, and so there was just a host of guys coming through, and their whole entire focus in life was fighting. Whether and it's kind of funny because at that time I'd get in these internet online arguments with guys about sport versus street. It was just ridiculous now to look back on it. But I would get in, these guys are like, oh, what about a gun? And I'm like, I just watched some guy come in, take a gun out of his waistband and stick it in his gym bag and put his gi on. Like, I'm pretty sure he knows what to do if a gun's involved. I don't know how to break this to you.
Yeah.
But, we're not, the fight game doesn't exactly draw, your Ivy League kids. So there's a lot of like fighters, just tough dudes, man. It was not, it was fun. Yeah, it was different, a little different than it is now, thankfully. But also at the time, it made me kind of laugh to get into those debates with people where they're not going to know how to fight on the street. And I'm like, I just watched my instructor beat the crap out of a dude in the parking lot in front of the school because he door dinged his car. The guy tried to pull a knife. The guy tried to reach back in the car and get something out of it. And he just slammed the door on the guy until the guy gave up. Like he literally took the door and just kept slamming it on the guy until the guy was like, oh, I'm done. And then he drug him out of the car and just pummeled him. And I'm thinking, what do you like? Do you not understand the type of personality that's drawn to the fight sports?
Yeah.
Do you not understand the level of testosterone these guys are pumping through their system to compete and continue to compete and participate in these sports? Like so the street guys to me were just ridiculous. I couldn't, while I was walking in the world because of work, it was almost frustrating to have a conversation with them because I knew, like, you need this stuff so much, like the ability to control a resisting opponent is something I was doing every day in the gym, sometimes twice a day, 3 times a day. I was training 2-3 times a day, 6-7 days a week, and to try to introduce it to this side, and they were just so against it, and it's interesting now to look back on it because now you got all these people that are like, well, yeah, you should.
Of course.
Of course,
Yeah.
And but it's just interesting now, to have this much time in. So man, it's probably been almost 30 years in that game. And to look back and see the evolution, it's really cool to see it because thank God, like, thank God we got past that. I hope, think, and we're on to like reality now. And like, okay, let's just train. Can we just stop arguing about what's going to work in the street or what's going to work in the sport or whatever? And let's just talk about training methodology, how to optimize this delivery system for whatever venue I find myself in. That's where I'm at. And I know that's a really crazy path I just went down. It has nothing to do with my resume.
No, that's perfect.
My training background.
So one of the things I say on this podcast, right? Nobody really cares about your resume. We care about your experience and how's that experience going to relate into making me better, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And again, your awesome story, not your particular, but someone's awesome stories downrange are great. Don't get me wrong, and I love to hear them. But I just paid you $500 for 2 days to put holes in paper accurately. I don't understand what Route Irish has to do with that.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So it's important to put that lineage through to substantiate what you have to say is something we need to listen to, right? And all jiu-jitsu stories are always awesome.
They're funny.
They're
tough old dudes. They're tough old dudes, and there is nobody. I don't care what anybody says. There is no tougher person on the planet than a grappler. I was just talking about it. My 10 a.m. class this morning. I have one of the guys in the class is 270-pound, 280-pound D3 wrestler. Just a beast. He's 25, been out of the game for a minute, and getting back into it. And we were talking about how grappling and grappling based arts or sports set you up for success in everything
Yep.
because you know how to grind, you know how to just put it out of your head. Like everybody else is suffering as well. So, Fido, man,
Yep.
F it and drive on. Let's go. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to get any better whining about it. And
Yep.
there is no escape. There is no easy way out except through. And so, we were talking about it, man, and he's on his journey to get back in shape and get his kind of his athleticism back and all that good stuff. He's had some setbacks, and I was just telling him like, hey, dude, you know, um, you already have everything inside of you from a lifetime of grappling
Oh
that
yeah.
you need to succeed. Like you know how to suffer, you know how to grind it out, you know how this works. So my job is just to stay there and keep you on track, just to allow you to do what you already know how to do.
A
You
hundred
know,
percent. Yep. I mean, people say like, you need to find out who you are, yada yada. You don't want to know when you find out who you are. When someone has side control on you, your right hip is pinned, your left shoulder is pinned, and they're putting shoulder pressure on you. They're not doing anything but that pressure, and you can't breathe.
yeah,
Then you find out who you are.
yeah, yeah. It's
Then
like
you
how
find out, everyone's like embrace the suck, be comfortable while being, comfortable and uncomfortable.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't care if you're a world class athlete. If you can't breathe, it doesn't matter. You know,
right.
and anybody who makes fun of anybody from tapping to pressure, I've done it and I've been there.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
It is not only is it physically horrific, but it's mentally horrific because you don't understand why you want to tap. He's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
submitting me. What's going
yeah,
on here?
yeah.
Right?
There's no way out of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You get that impasse where it's like, well, what do I do now? I can't breathe. I'm not really in pain. I'm in misery.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah.
like, it's not a joint. It's not a choke. It's just miserable. Your insides hurt.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, man, I think, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and getting back to kind of the resume thing, my brother found a picture. He sent it to me. It's kind of cool. Somebody quoted me, and I know that sounds narcissistic to say, but it was kind of interesting
Yeah.
because I love telling people like, I, you know, I'm not here to prove to you how good I am. I'm not here to prove to you how awesome I am. None of that matters when you're walking to your car in the Walmart parking lot or Target parking lot, or you're in some parking garage by yourself, unless you're carrying me with you
Yeah.
or a few of my guys with you, none of what I can do, none of what I've ever done matters. What
Hmm.
matters is, did I give you tools? Did I equip you properly? Did I set you up for success? Did I get your mind right? Did I get your body right so that you can get it on? And so, my thing is, I don't need to make people as good as me, or I don't need people to think I'm good. I need to make people better than I could ever be. I need to make people better than they ever thought they could be. So that's the thing. Sorry, dude.
Yep. All good.
It's like I need to make it so that people can realize their potential,
Yep.
and that's my job as a coach. And a lot of guys, unfortunately, and I've trained with them and I've done it myself. I've recognized it in myself. Will maybe not give as much as they should to students or to a student because they recognize a threat.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they see that person as, this person is better than me or could be better than me with just a few tweaks. And that's a to some
Sure.
degree that's a coach's ego battle, right? Where you got to just go, look, you know, I've got to do what's right, which is make them as good as they can be. And if that means they're better than me in 2 months or 3 months or whatever it is, then so be it. I've always said within the Straight Place Gym, my goal has always been from 1999 when I first became an instructor with those guys. My goal has always been to make sure that my students within a year within 1 year, I expect them to either be tapping me out or putting me in jeopardy. Like I expect that from them. Like they better have risen to a level where they are dangerous within a year, or I'm not doing my job.
That's awesome, man.
I'm
Because
not.
we've all been to those seminars where they teach you a guard break / escape, and it's a perfect setup to get caught in a triangle.
Or an armbar, right?
Or an armbar, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Put your
For the
arm behind the feet, and then you
yeah,
tap because you got to put in a triangle. Yeah, we've
yeah,
all been through that, and much to your credit, because as we know, as beautiful as the art is, and not compared to a lot of the other arts, but we're alphas, right? There's ego in everything,
mhm,
and we say we need to lose that ego, but it's tough. It's
it's real
tough.
tough.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
so so kudos on that. One of the things I want to talk to you about, since you are heavily in both worlds, you're because you're a founding member of the Shivworks Collective. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I think technically it was me and Craig kind of first.
Okay.
Uh, we met through an online forum called Self Defense Forum that's now gone.
Yep.
And out of the ashes of that came Total Protection Interactive.
Okay.
And so then we met through that. And then Craig, Paul Gomez, Leo Dyer, awesome Brazilian dude, lives down in Florida, and Sebastian Pritchard, the originals of TPI. We all kind of met in person in Orlando. Um, well, Craig was down there teaching one of the first ECQCs, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how this all just started to gel and come together. Then a few years later, I went to Canada with Craig, and we co-taught a seminar. He taught half a day, I taught half a day, Saturday, Sunday. And that was the beginning of all this stuff. That was kind of,
Awesome.
of a what would you call it? Kind of a codified or codified approach.
Yeah.
Where like, hey
Yes.
man, and Craig had been teaching forever as an academy instructor, and also been teaching private sector courses to some degree. But I don't think we had ever really kind of looked at it like, how do I put this together into something where I can easily hand it to somebody so that by the end of Sunday night, they walk out far more dangerous than they walked in Friday evening.
Yeah.
And
Awesome.
yeah,
So so it, and I bring that up because in a very large part, I think maybe even more so than a lot of the other contributors on the firearms training side. The new thing is go train jiu-jitsu, right?
sure.
Whether it be quotes from you, Craig, Larry Lindemann, Chuck Haggard, yada yada. I am privileged that I get a little bit to tell people where to go, in their areas and stuff, and I'm humbled by that. But one of the main things that I'm not going to use the word excuses, but one of the reasons why people don't want to get into that, right, is because they found out about it through their firearms training, and they don't think they are good enough with their firearm, and then start devoting to another discipline. My reaction to that is, well, everything is jujitsu. And they look at me like, huh? You know?
Right.
But then I say, look, man, the body works the way the body works, right? If it works in jujitsu, it's going to work in firearms applications. And they still kind of sort of get it. And then I just basically am like, look, dude, it's all one thing. Think of it as all one thing. What is it? Have you heard that same type of uh, angst as to giving up this to get into that? How do you usually talk to people about that?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, from the side of the house I'm coming from, I don't run into as much resistance
Okay.
because they're usually running into me at like one of Craig's courses or one of the courses with Larry and Cecil, or one of my courses, which are heavily based in the hand-to-hand 0 to 6 foot problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so typically they've had that moment of, wow, if I had a
They've
little,
already hit the epiphany. So,
yeah, if
okay.
I had a little jujitsu, man, life would be so much better right now. And so they typically don't have that. And when I do run into the guy who's like, well, first I want to get my M class card in USPSA, or I want to achieve whatever goal it is, you know, that they have. So I don't want to take away from that. I get it. You know, I do understand, you know, that moderation is not the domain of people that are excellent or excel at what they do. But at the same time, I tell them, like, look, you don't get to pick where the fight goes.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at it from the perspective of a fight, you know, Murphy's Law says the fight's going to go where you're most efficient.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a striker and you're dependent on your strikes keeping you on the feet, what's going to happen? You're going to end up fighting a guy who's got striking, but also a
Right.
D1 wrestling background like Chuck Liddell. You know,
Yep.
so, you know, that's Murphy's Law. And so you're dependent upon your pistol. Well, what's going to happen? You know, it's just Murphy's Law. Something's going to happen. You're going to get caught in your car. You're going to get caught getting out of your car. You know, there's going to be something going to happen where you get taken out of your game and forced into your weakest area. So my approach would be make sure you don't have any weak areas. You don't have to be, you know, brown, black, whatever level belt in jiu-jitsu to be safe, excuse me, in a hand-to-hand situation. But 6 months from now of a little jiu-jitsu, a year from now of a little jiu-jitsu, you'll be a lot safer than you would be right now. So take 2 days a week. I think most academies nowadays, they start off 2 days a week. 2 days a week, man, and train, get the fundamentals down, get some time in on the mat, and figure out how to deal with a resisting opponent. You will be far ahead of the game. And you know, I tell them, like, nobody's asking you to become a black belt. Nobody's asking you to compete. All I'm asking is that you make yourself a little more dangerous to the bad guy. And by doing that, you will improve your overall game because you will be more confident. You know,
Absolutely.
You know, they know, because they know, right? You know,
Yeah.
like I know, man. Like, say you go into a match, you got an injury. And going into the match, holy cow! Sorry, dude. Going into the match, and what do I know? I know, you know, my left knee's kind of iffy. You know, so what do? I favor that subconsciously. Yep. You know, I'm not going to put that leg out there for dude to get. You know, and if he's smart, he's going to pick up on that. You know, like back in wrestling in high school, junior high wrestling, right? What did you always look at? You know, the guy who's got his socks pulled a little too high on one ankle. That means his ankle's taped, right? Underneath of his shoes. Or, you know, his knee looks like he recently shaved it. Like there's no hair everywhere on his leg but his knee. What's that mean? It was just recently taped. That knee's banged up. I'm going after that leg. Yep. So, you know, those are things that, you know, subconsciously, you know your weaknesses. So eliminate them. Get rid of them. And then you don't have to worry about it. You could just get it on. Wherever the fight goes, let it go. Let's get it on, dude.
It is amazing the cues, right? Because, you know, like on the training side, on the firearms training side of things, or the awareness side of things, you know, it is amazing the cues that you pick up on when you grapple, when you roll a lot. For example, you know, even from the beginning, my buddy Drew was asking me about that. It's like, can you tell when a dude's going to be good before you even roll? I go, yeah, it's usually the way he goes to his knees. I can tell if he knows what he's doing or not, right? Or, you know, or the, you know, the slap and dap at the beginning. But on the other hand, if I know as a dude's right-handed and he's slapping and dapping with his left hand, wrist lock, right leg, right arm wrist.
Right.
Tell me and I'll stay away from it.
Yeah, right. Well, you know, that, I mean, there's something to that. And I tell the people that train with me, and I've felt this way for a long time, and I've talked about it, you know, quite often over the years. There's only one thing you can do that's more intimate than grapple with people.
Yeah.
I mean, grappling is the ultimate trust exercise because it's simulated murder. It's simulated serious bodily injury. And I'm trusting that my training partner is going to let go when I tap.
Yep.
Because they got me. And it's the same thing. You know, I throw a guy, go knee on belly, spin around into an arm bar, transition over to a Kimura, drop onto his leg because he left it hanging, and I go for a knee bar, and I crank that bad boy, and he taps or he doesn't have time to tap, but I let it go because I know it's tight.
Yes. Yeah.
That is intimacy, right? That is trust. That is a complete, undeniable trust.
Yep.
In your training partner. And that puts you in tune with a lot of things that regular people that don't do this kind of stuff all the time aren't in tune with. And so you see cues, you see different things, you notice things that regular people maybe don't notice, So there's a lot of like deep dive benefits to jiu-jitsu and grappling, wrestling that go beyond just the ability to wreck pretty much anybody in any room you walk into. It's also a whole lot of other things that you learn. You learn lessons on the mat that benefit you greatly off the mat. So that's a whole other thing, man.
Yeah, it's a whole other thing. Again, I was talking to my
Yeah.
buddy Drew, and he owns Bear Solutions. I don't know if you ever heard about that, right? So he just got his blue belt. He's a fifth group guy, and we were talking about that because, again, time machine. I used to make fun of John Johnston because he could never keep the time machine thing straight, and now I'm starting to do that. So people will already heard Drew's episode by the time this one airs.
Yeah,
but
right.
we were just talking about, like people say, you got to have that proper mindset, right? You got to have that situational awareness. Well, bro, how can I drill that? How do I drill situational awareness? And yes, you can go through color codes and stuff, but unless you can drill something under pressure and over again, like you do in jiu-jitsu, it's kind of a nebulous term,
Right.
And I will tell you, man, you want to be situationally aware? Run a crowded mat, right? You're, a higher level belt and you're trying to keep people from not rolling on top of each other, right? Or having that spazzy white belt do a backflip to get out of somebody's guard and smash the people behind them. You want to get situationally aware? Run a mat. Run a mat,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's I just started kind of posting some little like I don't know if you want to call them tips or whatever, but because I work on something every week. I have something I'm working on, and so this last week I've been working on what William April talks about, which is don't enter a space without looking at it, or looking into it. And so I've been talking about that and talking about situational awareness, but actually giving it kind of a concrete practice routine, how to develop it. And so I was sharing some things on that. Some of it, you learn just by working undercover. Like you definitely learn to figure out really quick who's who in the zoo. Is there another way out of here? Who looks out of place, kind of that Sesame Street game, one of these things is not like the other. You start putting all that stuff together like that because you've got about that much time to figure it out, especially if it's an ambush and you just walked in, like it's already set, bro.
Yeah.
So you can figure that stuff out. So one of the things that we talk about is, and I really learned to develop it on the mat, running a mat full of people, conferences, camps, things like that, where you've got like 50, 60, 100 people training at the same time. And that's that wide angle vision, that relaxed, wide open awareness of everything horizontally and vertically. And just things like that. It's kind of fun how all these areas of life and all these practices kind of interweave, and they all come together to help us become better at everything. We become better at everything. One side feeds, it's, like that, like the awareness of standing on a mat and being able to read tension. Like, okay, those dudes are getting a little too intense. It's beyond drilling or beyond rolling now. They're close to fighting, especially, for years I ran competition team only practice. I didn't teach regular classes. I taught competition only. And so those guys are amped even higher. And it's not uncommon, we don't talk about it a lot, but it's not uncommon to have fist fights start in there and stuff. And guys get a little too, they're hungry, they haven't been eating, and they're sore all over, and life sucks, and they just got in a fight with their girlfriend because why are you going to practice for the second or third time today? This is the fifth day this week. You've practiced 2 times a day, and
and what do you mean you're going to hit the sauna after?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And then of course, a guy that they're having a hard time with cross faces them or something, and next thing you know, guys are throwing bombs at each other. So, you know, from years of doing that, I got really good at like picking up like the vibe of the room, picking up the tension, you know, who's maybe shouldn't go with each other today, you know, who probably should go with each other, you know, like all that good stuff. And it's kind of cool, right? Because you see how that ends up feeding into the whole, you know, like all these kind of pieces kind of feed into the whole and make us better overall. You know, like just better people. And that's the goal, right?
So, do you ever have, so we talked about, you know, gun guys, you know, as I think Craig has put it, you know, that's great. You train with a gun, but if you can't stop yourself from getting raped outside of a bathroom, your priorities are a little skewed or something to that effect, right?
Yeah, prison shower.
Prison shower, right? On the other hand, though, you know, do you ever get approached or approach the subject of people as like, look, I know you think you're a badass, right? But, you know, your hip throw ain't going to stop a bullet.
Oh, yeah.
You know, or, you know, as badass as you are, multiple tackers are a thing. Do you ever approach that to non-gun people that come train jiu-jitsu with you?
Yeah, definitely. So part of my foundation's curriculum has a week that's devoted to dealing with the gun and the knife. You know, counter gun, counter knife. And so that's kind of when I broach the subject, you know, hey, you might want to consider that not only is this difficult to deal with on your end of it as the receiver, but it might also be difficult for them to deal with if you were to produce your own, you know, and actually know what you're doing with it. So that's where I kind of get into that. And then I run the Illinois Shivworks training group at my gym. So we meet once a month, and we'll do that. And what is starting to happen is a lot of my more pure jiu-jitsu oriented guys are starting to show up for that. So they're starting to show up. They're starting to train with the knife, with the gun, how to deal with it, how to actually use it themselves. And so that's been really interesting. But yeah, I definitely have those conversations. It's kind of funny because I get those conversations a lot, you know. A lot of guys will come to me from the jiu-jitsu side and be like, hey, what about this? What about that? You know, what do you think? And it's good to see that cross-pollination, you know, because ultimately, you know, I mean, the jiu-jitsu that we practice now is heavily American influenced, right? Like Greco, judo, freestyle, that all got put in there courtesy of us, you know. And, you know, it was modified by the Brazilians, but it's Japanese in origin. And the Japanese jiu-jitsu was a battlefield art, you know. It was based on being weaponless or using a weapon in conjunction with empty hand skills to put a pointy thing into another dude and stop him from putting his pointy thing. Sounds bad, but stop him from putting his pointy thing into you, right? And so we can never lose sight of our origins, right? Of our roots. And so when I approach that with these guys, I just tell them like, hey man, this is what jiu-jitsu is supposed to be. You know, jiu-jitsu is supposed to be this 360-degree zero gravity fighting art. And you should be able to get it on in space, in a pool, you know, like in a taxi, in an Uber, whatever. You should be able to get it on anywhere, anytime, with anything against anybody. That's it. And that's what my goal for my students is. That's what I create and continue to try to create with my students is this first, and you know, right, and getting back to mindset, right? That's the mindset that you are indomitable, that I will create you, I will make you into this indomitable, just savage that can fight whether you're suspended in the air, because think what's guard and mount, right?
Same thing, different, orientation,
360, right? 360 degrees, zero G environment, you will be a freaking murderer. Like that's my goal. And so mentally I get that across to them. So that's how I kind of ease them or weave them into the weapon side of it, is like, this is just part of what jiu-jitsu has always been, man. So let's just keep doing it. And I have yet to meet resistance. You know,
Yeah, a good story that I have with that, right, is I had a mentor of mine, and he would always say you have to train all the ranges, you have to train all the ranges, right? But he was emphatically anti-gun, emphatically, right?
wow.
So yeah, and it was, and then finally I just kind of said like, look, when you, and I said, okay, define your ranges, right? He's like, well, medium distance, kicks, punches, intermediate, elbows, knees, close, dirty boxing, super close, ground fighting, jujitsu, yeah. And I go, well, what if you have to engage somebody at 15 yards?
Right.
Well, why would I have to do that? Because they just broke into your house on the other end of the hallway. You're
Yeah.
gonna go, And he looked at me and just went, "You just used my own logic against me." I go, "That's jujitsu."
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah. Right.
he was training within a week,
Yeah.
just to see what it was about. Because logically, I just he didn't hold up to his own standard.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
so
Of course. And
awesome.
that's the thing. It's like Chris Howder's, the godfather of jiu-jitsu with SPG. And
That's straight blast gym for everybody that doesn't know.
yeah,
So
yeah, straight place gym. And Chris is kind of not kind of, he is the godfather of jiu-jitsu for us. And he talks about it all the time. Like, people don't come to sign up for jiu-jitsu because they don't want to learn how to fight. Like, people don't get into this stuff because they don't are not interested in learning how to fight. So why not learn how to fight with everything?
mm-hmm.
Why not learn how to like pick something up? Then that's part of the awareness exercises that I do is like walk into a room and pick 3 or 4 things that I can immediately use as a weapon if I had to.
Yep. Yep.
Just those kind of things, and that, now again, that's a throwback to the undercover days, right? Where you're walking in and your pistol might be in your work boots,
Mm-hmm.
like tucked down next to your ankle. You're not digging that thing out in sub 1 second,
Yeah.
but I'm going to pick that lamp up over there and shove it through that dude's face in about 1/8 of a second. And I know I can cover 5 yards in a second or less. I've tested myself multiple times since I was like 17, right? I know
Yeah.
my 5 yard speed. So I'm pretty confident that I can arm myself quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing with this jujitsu thing is you are never unarmed, you know, but why cut off that side of it? Why
Right.
cut off the weapon side for whatever reason? I don't know why anybody would, but yeah, it's an interesting conversation, because I'm starting to see a little bit more of that where you have guys who are a little bit less uh, fight weapon oriented. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's the right word for it, but yeah, I kind of see, I have guys that will train with me that I'm like, tonight, man, we're working jits with hits. We're going to work strikes in with our hits. And I'll see guys like, oh, come on, and I'm
Yeah.
like, we're fighting, bro. We're
Yeah.
learning how to fight, like, I get that you want to berimbolo. That's cool, man. But learn how to throw a hit or not get hit in the middle of it, you
Yeah.
know? And so it's kind of funny, we go back and forth. But, the thing, it's like anything, right? Like, they can argue all they want, but then I see them doing it, so I don't care.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
like,
I'm one
kids.
of those guys that, before he was like, well, that's not going to work in the street or that wouldn't work in a fight, right? Because I used to be, I still am, but I'm trying not to be as much as deep guard heavy as I am, right?
Sure.
Because for me, it's the perfect technique. I have bad knees. Nothing needs to bend. I'm just swinging my whole core around and getting on top. But I'm trying to be like that. But, people always just like, oh, deep half guard won't work in the street until people started doing it in the UFC, right?
Yeah.
But, but then again, like the Berimbolo, it's like, yeah, dude, that's awesome. How you think you can finish that though? Because as we're both kind of upside down, and I'm punching you in your taint, as you,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I'm not saying it's not going to work. I'm
No,
going to
but I'm
say
just,
that part that's the hardest part to grapevine me over, and I'm
yeah.
punching the taint. Let's see how that works.
Yeah, so it's
You
like,
know,
let's figure this out. Like,
exactly. Let's
let's
figure it
figure it
out.
out, man. Let's do the work and figure it out. But funny thing on the half guard, I have one. I got. It's cool doing this stuff, I was thinking about this the other day. A friend sent me an email and said, "Hey man, getting ready to get out of the military and he's doing his paperwork to get out, and he wants to get into instructing and I'm like, that's cool, man. It's awesome. I think you'd be a great instructor. But have you thought about the other side of the testimonials, right? So I've got a great testimonial from a guy who 2001, 2000, he went to a loud music call, and the agency he works for was extremely busy. They're like, hey, we can't send anybody to back you. Can you just take this call, until we can get somebody to clear and head your way? He's like, yeah, man, I'll handle it. It's just loud music and probably just a family or something. Gets over there. Well, it's a gang member who had just paroled and just got home. And so 30, 40 of his buddies were out there partying. He rolls up and they're not going to have it. They end up in a fight. He ends up pulling half guard, getting his back up against the wheel well of a car.
Yeah.
On the sidewalk. He's holding on to dude, got him locked down. Guy can't get away from him, and he's using the guy as a shield while he's waiting for the backup to get there. And the guy ends up telling him, like, if you let me up, I'll tell them to stop, because they were kicking the crap out of the guy, trying to stomp on my friend.
Trying to get through him. They were,
they're trying to hit him.
Yeah.
Trying to get him, and they're like hitting their buddy, and stomping on him.
What did my instructor call it? My professor calls it, like, guys try to do the X-ray pass. Instead of going around, they try and go through the guy, and it's not working, and they don't know why.
It's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, dude.
But it's like the other side of that, though, is about that same time, I visited one of my guys in the hospital. He'd been stabbed 7 times, and trained with me. And, visiting him also, he was like, oh, man, the stuff I got from you, it saved my life, dude. Like, and his wife, crying, hugging me, thanking me. And they're like, oh, thank God, I would never give him a hard time about going to training again, but that also reinforces the seriousness of what we're doing.
Yep.
Like, you might one day, the instructor, right, of the world, the collective of instructors, guys that want to be the instructor, like, it's not looking cool on Instagram, bro. It might be standing in an ER or a critical care unit, looking down at one of your students, realizing they're going to die. Did you prepare them?
Oh, yes.
Did you give them enough of a chance? They still might die, but did they go out battling it out?
Yeah.
Well prepared, battling it out. Not go out with no chance because the stuff you taught them was absolute crap. But did they go out on their feet, slugging it out to the best of their ability, as best prepared as they could have been? And dude, that stuff keeps me awake at night.
Yeah.
I've had enough of those. That was 2002. So I've had enough of those in that time, training the numbers of people I've trained, where it's like, yeah, the testimonials are cool. But the other side of the testimonials are the guys that are like, I made it, but I did 6 weeks in CCU. And did another 6 weeks of rehab and recovery at a nursing home. And now, they're going to take the colostomy bag off. My guts are finally healed from getting stabbed, or shot. And that's something people don't think about, man. It's a very serious thing. Like, you and I, as instructors, are not allowed to make mistakes, because our mistakes come with a body bag.
Yeah.
And people don't get that. What they see is the IG, hey, man, running cool drills and, that kind of stuff. And that's cool. I love it. Like, I watch, it's great entertainment. Like, I'll watch it. It's cool stuff. But the other side, man, is, and that goes back to what we initially talked about, right? Like, the resume, my personal resume isn't as important as the resume I'm giving or the knowledge I'm giving to the people that are trusting me to train them. Like, am I preparing them as best as possible? Like, it doesn't matter what I can do, because I'm not going to be there when my buddy is on his back with his back up against a car well or a wheel well, trying to keep from getting stomped to death by 40 guys. I'm not going to be there when my student is in the living room, tussling around with this guy who stabbed him 3 or 4 times before he realized the knife was in play. And then once he realized the knife was in play, he went 2-on-1 on that arm and started wrecking that dude's arm. I'm not going to be there.
Yeah.
I wish I could be, because, right, number 2 guy comes in and pop,
Yep.
fights over. But that's not the case. And so we got to get past our ego. We got to get past, like, what have I done? How cool am I? How fast can I run this drill? How fast can I do this? How awesome can I blow these guys' minds with, like, my awesome recoil mitigation? Watch me do this mag dump, with a 40 Glock with hot loads, and look, the mag doesn't even, the slide doesn't lift. Yeah, that's cool, man. That makes me feel really good, and I get to walk back. My ego is like, yo, bro, fist bumping me,
Yeah.
But at the same time, man, like, I've got to keep in mind that these people right now standing in front of me might get in their car, go to the next stoplight, and get carjacked.
Yeah.
Are they ready to rock and roll? Did they take enough material from me today to better prepare them to get it on?
Yep. Yep.
It's
So 2 things, right? I hear a lot of motivational speeches, or shticks a lot, dude. And you kind of get numb to it after a while, whether you agree with it or not.
Sure.
All that shit was epic, though, dude. What you just said was fucking epic. I'm not gonna lie to you, dude. It takes a lot for me to get goosebumps, man. That was awesome, dude.
Cool, man.
Yeah, for sure, dude. And then my other point on that was, which I forgot because that shit was just epic. Maybe it'll come back to me. So we're gonna try and follow that up with what some people may think is a boring question, but I think it's an important question, right? So as a school owner, right, for you, I want to hear your take on this. What people ask me a lot of times, like, what do I look for in a jiu-jitsu school, right? And my general thing is, well, if you are a grown man with responsibilities and you don't plan on getting into the octagon, go look for a school that has a viable children's program, because they know how to run a business. It's got to be clean, right? And if people get hurt, especially kids, things don't go well for them, right? Walking in, not that all MMA gyms are a bunch of knuckle dragging idiots, right? But a lot of them are, right? And they only care about getting in and fighting. And if you
for a reason sometimes.
Exactly. And if you want to fight, awesome.
Yeah.
You want to fight for money? That's it. Yeah, exactly. But if that's not you, like most of the people that I encounter, look for that children's program, right? And it's generally a good sign that they have a viable business and they care about the people that go there. It's not all about heel hooks. Would you agree with that? What else would you add to that of what to look for in a good school?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, definitely agree with that, man. That's on point. Cecil Birch wrote a article on his blog, Immediate Action Combatives, I think, is he wrote a blog about how to choose a school, and it's a great way. It's really similar to what you just said, which is, I want to look at, particularly if you're coming into this as a guy who wants to, again, you want to leave the gym better than you arrived. You're going to be diminished, right? Within reason, right? You're going to be tired. Sometimes I walk out and I get in the car and I'm just like, oh God, like I want to call Uber to drive me home, and I live 2 minutes from my gym. So, but still, but you want to look for that good mix. Like you said, do they have a kids program? If they have a kids program, that means this is a guy who looks at the future. Not only is he a good business owner, good business person, but he's looking at the future. I have a good kids program, and I know that, again, sounds narcissistic to say, but it's not my program. It's Growing Gorillas. It's an SBG thing, and I teach it. And my goal is to create little jiu-jitsu gals and guys who never leave the art, who go on into life. Like we were talking about earlier, wrestling prepares you for success in life. Jiu-jitsu prepares you. That grappling prepares you for success in life. So people that have a kids program that's viable, that's banging, that's fun. The kids are, happy and all that. Those are guys that are looking at it, in my experience, right? Talking to different people. Those are guys that are looking at it like, I want to create people that love this art as much as I do, that get as much benefit from it as I do. And so if you have a school that has that, you have a guy who understands it's not just about, I need training partners so I can get ready for my next fight. I need 10 good dudes in here that I can bang with to get ready for, Worlds or something. It's like, no, they're looking at, how do I pass the art on? The next thing I would look at is how many women are training there. Right? So do they have a good number of females in the classes? That means two things, right? It's safe. So you're not getting a lot of thuggery in there, and it's clean.
Yeah.
So women are not going to. I actually had a lady sign up at my gym 2 months ago. First thing she said was, get her on the mat, let her participate in a class, and try it before you drive it. And she got on the mat. First thing she says to me is, I'm going to sign up here. Your gym is the first one I got on the mat and didn't get up with a mouthful of hair or something all over me. And I was like, right on, we're on the right track.
Yeah.
And I'm religious about cleaning my mats, man.
You gotta be, man.
You gotta be, man. That skin stuff is no joke,
Dude.
And if you've ever seen somebody with staph, I'm sure you have. If you've been in this stuff, you've seen somebody with staph, you realize it's no joke. People lose muscle. They lose.
Yeah, what was that old Kevin Randleman?
Yeah.
With half his shoulder gone from that shit. It's like, oh my God, how are you not dead, bro?
Yeah, you lose pieces of your body because somebody couldn't clean a mat. So that's the other thing I would look at. Are there females there? Because those are the two things that drive them away, is people that are jerks and it's not clean. And then I would look for a good ratio of ages, like a good span of ages. Do they have the young guys and the middle-aged guys and the older guys? Or is there a good mix of folks in here? That tells me right there, like, okay, there's opportunities if you want to compete, because young guys are going to want to compete, but there's also the guy who's like, listen, I can't have a black guy because I have to go do a presentation to a board tomorrow and try to close a deal. So that guy, if he doesn't feel safe, he's not going to stay. Every time he tries to do a drill, like drill a guard pass, some guy has to up kick him in the face. He's not going to stay.
Or just, hey, bro, I got to teach a class this weekend. No wrist locks, okay? Thanks.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. Like, let go of my fingers, dude.
Yeah.
So that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, man, I think you're, dead on. So I agree with your points, and I would just flesh them out with those points.
So how important, getting back to the resume thing, right? Because lineage is a big thing in jiu-jitsu, right?
Sure.
How important do you think that is for a beginner? Is it important for them to come in and when they get all that other stuff are out of the way, and that's going to, do you think lineage is important?
I do. I think it is to some degree. So, because I've encountered some guys who are definitely not, how do I say this nicely? I guess there is no nice way to say it. I've encountered guys who I don't think they were a black belt when they left Brazil.
The Pan Am, the Pan Am Airlines black belt.
Yeah.
They left Rio with a blue and landed in LA with a black after they got off the Pan Am Airlines.
Yeah. It must have been something in the ocean water or something. The water kind of going up into the sky, got into the air. I don't know, but so there's something, with that. I don't think that's as bad as it used to be, because I think
not with the internet, man.
The internet, man, you can look it up. I mean, you can look me up on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, different Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu websites, and you could see like my lineage.
Yep. Yeah. These days, all you got to put in is the person's name, BJJ, and it'll happen.
There it is, right? There it is. And so. I think from a perspective as far as to not be taken advantage of, I think that's important. Man, that's like one of those areas. It's such a wormhole to go down, because you have some organizations that like have this check the box motion process.
Yeah.
And, oh man, I don't know about that. Like I get what they're trying to do, trying to like somehow or another codify curriculum and, you know, kind of like a regular, like not regular, but like a traditional martial arts, like you need this kata, this whatever to get this belt, and then on and on. Like I understand, I get what they're trying to get to. I don't know if that's the best way to get there, but yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one.
But it is a tough one. Well, I heard this one school, man. It's nice. It's awesome. I won't say the name, but there's a electronic check-in system, right?
Yeah.
Like I think they use like Zen Planner or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
80th class, no matter what. 80th class, here's your blue belt.
I've heard that.
Yeah.
There
you go.
And I've heard through Zen Planner and also through a logbook that they bring with them. There's another, you know, you bring this logbook and they sign off on it. And I didn't believe it until one of my friends got his purple belt and showed me his logbook.
Yeah.
And, you know, he trains in another place and he showed me the purple belt. He showed me the logbook. And I didn't know what to say to that, you know. And yeah, I would strongly encourage people to maybe avoid those places.
Yeah. Well, like at my school, he has a card, right? So when you do you do the beginning greeting and stuff like that, and it's basically so you can track your own performance, so he knows how many times you're coming to class, yada yada. And when you go, hey man, when am I getting my next stripe? He's like, hey man, you're gonna come to class more than once a week. Yeah. You know, it's right there, but there is no hard line. 60th class. Here's your blue belt. I mean,
no. And see, I have a curriculum for each level of my classes. So we have a foundations, and then we have different levels from there. You know, in my foundations class, I have a curriculum. You know, the guys get a copy of it. It's not a box they check though. It's just kind of like a bullet point sheet. Like here is what we're going to cover in your foundations period. And so we get through that. It's set up in a way that people can jump in at any place. You know, it basically just follows the natural cycle of a fight.
Sure.
You know, standing to ground, back up to standing. And so people can jump in at any point and be good to go, as well as the guys that have already been there a couple of weeks continue through. But at no point in time is there like me going to say, all right, it's been 9 weeks. Here's your stripe. You know, it's been another 9 weeks. Here's your next stripe. You know, that's not going to happen. I think it's important for the students to have some sort of curriculum where because my guys enjoy it because they can put notes on there.
Mm-hmm.
Or they like make little notes and like week 1 or week whatever. This is what I worked on. Here's the notes. Here's performance points. Here's coaching cues, internal, external coaching cues, and on down the line. You know, and so they can all break it down so they can remember it. I think at a certain point, you know, you get in your journey where you're like, I don't need to take notes anymore. You know, it's kind of in my head, you know, it's ingrained. But I think in the beginning, it's good for them. But I think kind of the belt factory direction,
McDojo style.
Yeah, I think that might be a negative if that's truly what's happening. But I think, I would avoid those kind of places probably, you know. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, I mean, but the main things I would look at is, do they have, you know, a banging kids program? Do they have females? Do they have a good age span of the guys that are there, the guys and gals that are training? Do they have young? Do they have middle age? Do they have older? Like, do they have a good spread? That tells me, one, the coaching staff knows how to coach everybody, not just competitors, not just whatever. And two, you know, they know how to make an environment where all these different people feel like it's okay to train here, like I belong here, because that's important. You know, that tribe, that feeling of I should be here. Like these are my people, I should be here. You know, it's there's a good book called Religion for Atheists that talks about that kind of stuff, and it really influenced me a lot as far as life. And also, but as far as running my business, running my gym and my classes and that kind of stuff, it's really important that people know they belong here.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's Yeah, whether it's your class, you know, you're running a pistol class, everybody that comes to your pistol class should feel like they belong in Scott's class.
Yep.
Like, I should be here.
Yep.
You know, like, this is my people. This is
And
my group.
And I'm going to get better. And I'm
Yeah.
going to get better.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember what I wanted to say before. Too often you hear guys like, you know, they poo-poo on the Instagram guys and they poo-poo on recoil, you know, control, and they poo-poo on splits and all this other stuff. To be clear, everybody, Paul can do all that. If you've never seen his recoil control, right? If you've never seen him bend a plastic pistol into weird shapes because his grip is so hard, you know, so tight. So he's not. There's too many people hide behind that stuff, right? It's like, oh, you guys are going too fast. You got to be more accurate. It's like, why can't I do both? You know?
Both. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, just to clarify, Paul can do all that. You know, so good stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff. All right. So we're gonna get in. We've been on for about an hour and 5 minutes, man. We're gonna get to the last segment, right? Which is the infamous segment of get it off your chest, right? And basically, what that is that you can talk about anything you want. Don't talk about your neighbors, right? But what I'm talking about is what should people start doing that they can start doing right now to get better, or what do they need to stop doing right now to get better, and everything in between, man. It's on you. Reins are off. Get it off your chest, my friend.
Yeah, right. Well, the first thing I think people need to stop doing, and it bugs me, drives me nuts, is underestimating themselves. You know, that is huge. That's like, you know, I'll hear these guys talk about mindset. I'll hear guys lecture, you know, mindset's the most important weapon, you know, all these other things. And then they talk about this mythological street fighting rampaging machine like a Thanos or a Juggernaut or something that just can't stop no matter what you do. And I'm thinking, you just talked about mindset for 20 minutes. Now you're telling us that we suck and we don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
You know, make up your mind, bro. And so my thing would be, look, if you are training every day, you are far more dangerous than what you think.
Oh, yeah.
Way more dangerous than what you think. I mean, you know, we used to say that you have to be at least a blue belt, you know, to compete in MMA. We still do that in our organization. You have to be a blue belt before you can compete in MMA. But we used to say, like, your average blue belt will just crush anything they run into, and that is true.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep.
You know.
It was especially true in the old days. It was like 99.5% of the Earth's population. Now it's probably about 90%.
Right.
But,
yeah.
You know,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's like, I see these guys, and we get a skewed perspective, right? Our perception is skewed because I go on the range with Les Chris Martoni or one of those guys, and I shoot with them, and I walk out and sit in the car and go, I quit, you know, like, or I'm just gonna go shoot skeet, you know, or trap, or something, you know, and but we forget that Les is like 1%.
Of the
Maybe
1%
less.
of the
of all the shooters on the planet. What we forget is the guys that we're around every day, the guys that we're rolling with every day, the guys that I'm, you know, throwing punches with on a regular basis are guys who are training every day.
Mm-hmm.
This is not your guy who just smoked crack for 18 hours straight or is looking to like steal some stuff, hit you up, you know, rob you because he's got a heroin problem, or any myriad of other issues that might be present in this person's life that removes them from even being considered an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you sweating them? What are you scared of? Like, bring them into the gym, put them on the mat, and most of us would look at them and go, are you kidding me? Like, this guy wants to roll with me? You know, this guy's actually gloving up and wants to bang with me? Are you kidding? Like, I'm going to kill him. But you put that guy in street clothes, and you put most people in street clothes walking down the street, and all of a sudden, fear.
Right.
Stop it. Like, if I could just shake anybody and get that out of them right now, I would. You're freaking dangerous. Not saying you got to act like it, but know it. Walk like it. you're going to be deselected just on that alone.
Yeah.
For the most part, avoidance, deterrence, de-escalation.
Yep.
You will avoid and deter most problems right there if you just walked around in your regular life like you walk around the mat. You know, the other, and that's the thing, because nobody you're going to run into, and I tell people all the time when I teach camps and conferences, I go, hey man, outside of this room right now, when we break for lunch or when we go to break, when you walk down to Whole Foods or you walk down to whatever place, you know, to get some food, Chipotle or something, to get some food, other than the people that are here with us right now, look around, find one person in there that trains as hard as you one day of their life, let alone as many days of their life as you have.
Right.
You're not going to find anybody.
Yeah.
Next time you're on an airplane, look around the airplane. Like, how many people on here train as hard as I do?
Yeah.
Get a grip, bro.
Yeah.
You're badass. Act like it. You know,
that is interesting. You start playing that game of when you're not on the mat and you're on the mat, or you're wherever you're at, and you start going, if that guy walked onto the mat, would I give a shit? You know, and your perception changes.
Yeah.
Right.
Think about
it's
it.
like, yeah, that dude. Imagining that guy in a gi, fresh meat.
Yeah.
Right. But for some reason out there, that, you know, that's a great way to look at it, because we always say it's not the strongest or the fastest guy that wins on the mat. It's the guy that's 3 steps ahead.
That's all it is.
And if you don't have that confidence, there's no way you're going to be 3 steps ahead, regardless of what the environment is.
Yeah, because now the biggest opponent's in your head.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you created this opponent, and that really goes back to the fear-based self-defense movement, where you know, they had to create this, you know, monster that's out there. They had to create this thing because they needed something to fight. Whereas, you know, you guys like doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or guys that are boxing every day are like, I'll smoke that dude. You know, like look at that guy like, yeah, glove that dude up and put him in here. You know, like, think about it. You get some guy walks off the street into a boxing gym, they're not going to put him in the ring because they know what's going to happen. He's going to get hurt.
Right.
I don't care how good he thinks he is. No reputable boxing coach is going to let that guy glove up and get in and bang, because they know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and there's a high probability he's going to punch himself in the face and knock himself out.
Yeah.
Right? It's like the first time you roll with a white belt, right? And you're like, oh my God, you swept me. That was amazing. And you're like, bro, you swept yourself. I don't know.
Yeah, you did it to yourself, man. I'm just chilling, watching you wreck yourself.
Yeah,
you know?
I touched your elbow and all of a sudden you just fell down. I don't know what happened there. Bro.
Yeah, or they exhaust themselves. Like 30 seconds in, they're exhausted. They can't move, you know, because they don't know how to do it.
Well, thank God, dude, because if it wasn't for that, man, I wouldn't stand a chance against wrestlers. Right?
Yeah,
you know?
right. Yeah.
Yeah. His back is on the ground. What do I do? Grind.
Yeah, it's like, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I just hang loose. Like, he's got that arm out there, that neck's out there. All right, bro. You know. But
so that was one. Did you have another thing you wanted to get off your chest, or was that the one?
That's the one thing I would tell people to stop doing.
Yeah.
And the first thing I would tell people to start doing is start taking better care of yourself. Start drinking more water, eating more healthy food. Yes, there are bad people out there. Yes, you might run into them. Possibilities versus probabilities, right? You are more likely to run into a cardiac event because we don't take care of ourselves, man. We don't, especially people that are driven, that, you know, like there's been a couple times, I'm not saying I'm the most driven guy on the planet, but there's been a couple times, you know, even in the last few months where I was like, I haven't eaten in 2 days. You know, I've been drinking coffee and working, you know, and I slept 3 hours because I hate sleep, you know, and, you know, because what do you get done when you're sleeping? Nothing. So I hate it, you know, and so, we, you know, that would be the thing I would tell us, you know, to start doing. You know, if you're already doing everything else, start taking care of yourself a little better, man. Drink a little more water than you think you should. Start your day with a simple things, and start your day with a glass of water, just to like set the pace for the day,
Yeah, it's
and
tough, man. You always want to start it off with, liquid hate,
yeah,
right? Being coffee, and it's
exactly.
hard to go back. But I'll tell you what, man, you start drinking that water, and the weight just starts falling off again.
And your joints, yeah, joints start feeling better. There's so much of your body is just dependent upon water. And staying hydrated is huge. Your brain functions better, your eyes
Yep.
function better. It's like talk about shooting. If you can't see, how are you gonna shoot?
Yeah.
You know,
Bev
so
always used to make fun of me, man, like, a month or two out before a tournament or a match or something like that, and I'd have to, because I used to walk around at 235 and compete at 215, right?
right.
And she's like, all right, well, what are you going to do? It's like, blah, blah, blah. I got to start drinking like 2 gallons a day of water. She's like,
Yeah.
why don't you just do that all the time and then you wouldn't have to cut so much weight? Because there's no glory in water.
Yeah,
That's why.
exactly. There's no fun. That's not fun. You know,
There's no glory in that.
there's
Come on, man.
either,
I'm
man.
cutting now. I'm cutting.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, I mean,
Awesome.
that would be, if I could tell people to do anything, man, it'd be like, listen, start taking care of yourself better. Start drinking that water and start like really building relationships with people in your world, in your life, like legit. Like I see so many people, on the job, when I was on the job and off, where they just had no real relationships in their world, in their life. And sometimes, a lot of the time, it's their own doing. They just made themselves such a difficult person to be around, such a toxic person to be around. Nobody wanted to be around,
Right.
So like, man, just, I mean, in a nutshell, be a better version of yourself or be the best version of yourself. But it starts with those little things
Yeah.
that drinking that water, taking care of yourself, eating better food, being kinder to the people that are in your world, and then on top, and let me pick, if I can, let me
Yeah,
piggyback
absolutely.
one thing, which is learning how to speak life or kindness to yourself is probably the biggest challenge most people have, because most people will have inner dialogue that they would never have with anyone else. Nobody would ever say to a friend, "You're a fat piece of crap. You need to drop the weight. You suck. You screwed up again. You failed on your diet again. You did this again," and start naming off point by point every downfall that they had done. Like
Mm.
nobody would ever do that. At least I don't know of anybody who would do that to someone else, but they'll do it to themselves sometimes all day long. They will have this inner dialogue all day long
Yeah,
of telling themselves how
for
much,
sure.
you got to stop that. It's not getting you where you want to go. And it's difficult, but again, like we were talking about before, your biggest opponent is you. So learn how to defeat that opponent. Learn how to turn that thing around on them, which, it's kind of a funny thing, right? Like, who do you talk to when you're talking to yourself? You
Hmm.
know, and like,
Hmm.
especially if you want to like mess with like a little kid, it's like, hey, who are you talking to when you're talking to yourself? And little kids are like, myself, like, like what's the big deal? But it's, that's the most important conversation you're going to have. Fix that conversation. You might be surprised. We might be surprised by how much everything else suddenly changes. Our interactions with other people are suddenly less on edge
Hmm.
because I've taken away that voice in my head that says, you suck, in whatever form that you suck takes. You don't deserve to be here. You don't deserve to talk to this person. They don't really like you. They don't have your best interests in mind. Like all those negative things. Stop. Just like stop, man.
Yeah.
That's not the truth. Like run it down in your head real quick. Like, is that true? Like, how do I know that's true? Do I absolutely know this person doesn't like me? Do I absolutely know this person doesn't have my best interest in mind? How do I know that? I just came to it myself. Well, then this might not be true. Did they tell me? Then it's true. But and then what would my life look like if I didn't have this conversation? What would my life look like if I didn't hold this belief, this false belief? you know, how much better would things be for me right now in this relationship with this person for whatever reason it might be, whatever the relationship might be based upon, how much better would things be if I could get rid of this thought?
Yeah.
And then get it out of there, man. You know, we limit ourselves, we sabotage ourselves so much. And I see it, man. I hear it. You know, when I'm walking around my mat and I'm coaching people, I see and hear people self-talk. And I'll tell them right there, man. Like I'll pull, yeah, you know, you praise publicly, correct privately, right?
Yep. Yep.
And you know, I'll pull people aside, man. I'll be like, hey, man, don't ever let me hear you talk like that again. You know, don't ever let me hear you talk like that to yourself ever again. You know, because you're setting yourself up to fail, and that's not how things work.
Yeah.
You know, you are on a journey, right? You're on a path. Yes, it sucks because it's a new normal. This isn't the normal you're used to. It will become the normal you're used to. In the meantime, though, you don't need this old vestige, this old image, self-image, dragging you back into that old normal that you're trying to get away from. So tell that inner child or whatever it is to shut up. You know, like
Yeah.
what Don Henley song, you know, I want to drag out my inner child and kick its little butt, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like find that thing and shut it off because it's holding you back.
And you know, that's an interesting perspective, even with dealing, you know, this industry um is super interesting, right? I personally in the firearms industry, the training industry, uh
Sure.
the top levels of this industry have no equal in other industries, right?
Right.
Jiu-jitsu is very much the same way, right?
Right.
In that the best of the industry has no equal in another, right?
Right.
Whereas in our industry, that average scumbag who knows what he's teaching is wrong, but it has good marketing and he's just doing it to make more money, get ahead. That's a regular dude in any other industry. but
Yeah.
but
Sure.
in this
Right.
industry, that guy's a scumbag, right?
Yeah.
But you're still trying to, you know, being fairly new to the teaching thing, just understanding personalities and how things work and you
Sure.
know, clicks and casts and stuff like
Oh
that.
God.
Yeah, but
God. Oh God.
yeah, but what you just said about, because there's a lot of negativity, you know,
Unfortunately, yeah.
everywhere,
Because
but
you know why? Because negative is easy.
yeah, because negative is easy, but you know, you kind of makes like, man, that dude is grumpy and
Yeah.
spitting a lot of hate.
Mm-hmm.
But where's that coming from? That's
Yeah. Right.
coming from an internal dialogue
Yeah.
that's how they're talking to themselves. So that's
Yeah.
how they should, you know, most people don't, but maybe that individual's like, well, that's how I talk to myself. That's how I'm going to talk to everyone else. And what
Yeah.
kind of hell is that?
Yeah. Right.
And
Yeah.
when
It's
you
like
think,
what?
and when you think like that, it's like, you're in your own private Idaho, man. I'm going to keep on trucking, you know?
Yeah. It's like the old saying, right? Like the worst prison some people have is in their own head. You
Oh,
know, it's
yeah.
like they got to live with themselves in solitary every day.
Yep.
Yeah, man. I mean, even in the firearms side of the house, you know, like I've been on the line before with people. You know, I had a young lady come through, and man, it was unbelievable. Some of the things that she'd been told and taught. She's a state trooper shooting a Glock 22. You know, 180 grain, full power loads. You
Yep.
know, fairly small stature. I was able to help her get to where she wanted to be or get to
Mm-hmm.
where she needed to be. And she's actually gone on to excel. But at the time, it just too many things to list. But one of the things that they had both thumbs behind the gun. So she's gripping the gun kind of like that. And then
Oh.
using both fingers to pull the trigger. Because somebody,
Mm.
yeah, because her trigger was just, I think it was like some sort of New York, I don't know, something heavy. It was heavy,
Yeah. Yeah.
but not insurmountable, but heavy. So I remember like there was a point where man, like she burned down a drill, you know, and it was the second day of my class, and she just tears it up. And I remember like you know like just telling her like, listen, man, you are a shooter. You need to start telling yourself, I'm a shooter.
Yep.
I see what I need to see to make the hits I need to make. I'm a shooter. You know, when you have a bad run, you self check, run it down, hot wash it real quick. Do I know what I did wrong? Am I aware enough to know what I did wrong? Sometimes you're not. You know, sometimes it just happens and you're like, I don't know what happened. You
Yeah.
know, it must be a bad round or something, you know. My girl's starting to go, you know.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's just but if you know what you did, check it in your head, go, okay, cool, gotcha. Won't happen again. And then keep on keeping on. But do not dwell in that, oh my God, I suck. I'm backsliding. I'm going back to what I used to do. I'm going back to, no, stop yourself right there and tell yourself, I'm a shooter. She started crying, man.
Yeah.
You know, like instantly, she's like, nobody's ever said that to me. Nobody's ever told me that. Nobody has ever told me that I'm good enough to consider myself a shooter. And I'm thinking, you've been working the street for almost 10 years, man.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
You know, what are we doing, man? You know, like, are we setting people up for success or not? You know, and so yeah, when it comes to that inner dialogue, it's really important that we have our inner dialogue correct, because you know, somewhere there was an instructor somewhere whose own inner dialogue got inflicted on her.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Yep.
Added to whatever it is she might have brought to the table already, right? Because we bring our own baggage.
Sure.
And then you have a coach, you know, getting back to what we originally talked about in the beginning, right? Like the right word at the right time. You know, we have the right person say the right thing at the right time, we could take off. Wrong person say the wrong thing at the right time, and we're diminished.
Yep.
We no longer
Yeah.
believe, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a whole other thing, man. We could talk like hours about belief and all that. I mean,
We will. We will in part two. We will in part two, man.
Dude, I got believe tattooed across my stomach. That's how much it means to me. Like, you've got to first and foremost believe that you rock and roll, you're a badass, that you can execute your training on demand. Everything else falls into place after that.
Yeah. Not to diminish that amazing message, Professor, but I could just imagine, right? You and I rolling no gi, you've got mount, right? And all I see is this believe in my face. Like, yes.
Keep
Yeah,
man.
I believe he's about to armbar me right now. I believe that you are not going to get past my T-Rex arms in here. Right? Anyway, that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining me, man. That was awesome. I sincerely appreciate it. Where can people find you? Social media, your website? Where's your gym located? Where can they find you, man, to get some more of all this good stuff?
Cool, man. Yeah, thanks for having me on, man. I really enjoyed it. So awesome conversation, right? So I love good conversations, make you think, you know. But they can find the gym website is spgillinois.com. And then they can find me on Facebook at SBG Illinois. And then they can also find my personal Facebook too. It's just Paul Sharp, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then on Instagram, I'm on there as Paul_Sharp_SBG. And then there's also SBG Illinois on Instagram. I'm on YouTube as well. It's Paul Sharp SBG. You know.
Yep.
Very original. Very original. You know.
Hey, make it easy, man.
Yeah, I make it
easy.
Yeah.
And you were in Elgin, right?
I'm in Elgin, Illinois. We're 1341 Manor Court in Elgin. That's 60123. We're on the west side of the city, so easy to find. And we love, you know, if guys want to drop in, guys are traveling, want to drop in, man, just hit me up, send me a message. We love it, you know. And if guys want to join and find a place where you have like-minded guys, you know, gun guys, we have all kinds of people. You know, it's funny, man. Most of my guys are gun-centric dudes. You know, like they come from that world. You know, and so if you want to be surrounded by like-minded people that want to see you be the best that you could possibly be, man, I would love to have people come join us. You know, I'm always about infecting people with the jiu-jitsu virus.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly, man. Man, that would be your place would be great for Jim Dexter. Sorry, did I say that out loud?
Well, I think I want to say like his significant other is
came to your seminar, loved it, bro.
She's gonna it sounds like she wants to join. It's just a matter of scheduling. She with her schedule and all that, man. you know how that goes. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that they liked it, man. The
Oh,
women's,
they loved it, man. And then, so yeah. And so I don't think I mentioned this, and I'll mention it to the internet. I don't give a shit. But so Bev starts tomorrow, right?
yeah,
She's not going to the same school that I do, but I'm okay with that.
that's all right.
Yeah. It's they got unique women's self-defense,
Yeah,
where like,
okay,
some schools have like that long introductory period where you have to go for a
yeah,
while before you can roll. They just tailored it to women, and Bev went to a seminar this past weekend and absolutely loved it, man. I don't care what it is, dude. Unless she gets on the mat, I know the black belt there. Very good friends with a lot of my other friends that I've trained with. Good dude.
cool.
So I'm stoked, man. Everybody needs to get to jiu-jitsu, man.
Yeah,
Everybody.
and that's an excellent thing. You know, we just started. I want to say 2 or 3 months ago, we had Leah Taylor come in. She's a black belt. She's won worlds. Excellent athlete, SBG black belt. She just came in, and we started our women's only Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu program when she was there. And I'm telling you, man, you know, for all the naysayers, um, that are like, oh, you know, they're never going to roll with another female, so they need to be rolling with dudes, and you know, shut
Dude,
up.
all that's
Yeah,
changing, man.
yeah. Not
All
only
that's
is it
changing.
changing,
I'll be honest with you. I like watching everybody at the Worlds and Pan Ams, but
yeah,
more and more, man, watching them hyper technical, hyper fast women's
they're
black belt matches. Dude, even the purple belt matches, it's just like,
they're super
oh, this
technical,
is
man.
technical.
They are super technical, you know, and there's so much. Yeah, man. I mean, with women, there's so much less ego involved,
Yes.
much less pre-programming involved, because they're not
Yes.
in there going, well, my uncle taught me how to do whatever, you know, or I've watched UFC, or I did some MMA in my neighbor's backyard. You know,
Right.
you're getting a lot of that stuff. You're getting women that
Yeah.
come and are just like, I just want to learn how to do this. You know, I want to learn how to defend myself. And so with the women's only program, it's really interesting to see it because they are stoked, like they love it. You
Yeah.
know, it's a and they're not dealing with people that outweigh them by 50, 60 pounds, so they get a chance to really focus on that technique and get it
Yeah.
right, get the timing and all the elements that make it magical. You know, they're really getting that. So good for her, man. I'm glad. I'm
Yeah.
glad she's found a
Just,
spot and get
I mean,
after it.
the fighting sports in general, man, are just for women. There's next level. Nobody can tell me that if they watched the Chris Cyborg Amanda Nunes fight, didn't freak out after watching that fight, man.
Oh
Did
yeah,
you see? Oh, dude, that was an
yeah,
awesome fight.
yeah,
That could have been actually, to be honest with you, man. I enjoyed that fight more than I enjoyed Jones Gustafson fight.
yeah.
You
Oh yeah,
know,
yeah.
uh,
Sure.
so yeah. Expect ladies go train,
Yep.
go train with Paul. So. Um, all right, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap this up. As far as me, guys, the drill. If you want to take a class with me, go to modernsamuraiproject.com/classes. I'm booked through September almost. So it's been awesome. If I do virtual lessons for as well for dry fire and stuff like that, so just look me up on that. If you got any questions, if you have a BJJ, if you want to get into jiu-jitsu and you're in the middle of nowhere and want to know where to go, I provide a free service. Give me your zip code. I'll give you my thoughts. I may not be right, but it's a start, right?
Heck,
Uh,
get them
and
started.
yeah, and happy to do that for you. But more importantly than anything, be good, stay safe, get training.